analysis, and they decided not to push their luck because the Soviet Union at the time also did not promise to support them, being the only other country at the time that had nuclear weapons, even though they were friends. So today, what deterrence looks like is if Taiwan and the United States are going to return to something like that, Xi Jinping and his generals and his advisors need to believe that they won't be successful in invading Taiwan and also controlling Taiwan. So there has to be sufficient capabilities for the Taiwanese to prevent an invasion, and if an invasion is successful from the Chinese point of view, that they can repel them off the island. That's the kinetic side. The problem is they're also attacking them psychologically, economically, and all these other dimensions, diplomatically trying to restrict their visibility in the world. And so Taiwan needs to amp up everything in both areas. And I think they are trying, but in my opinion, they're not going fast enough and sufficiently enough. So, and then the United States side, we're starting to increase the amount of weapons that we're selling to Taiwan, but we're also restricted because of our use of the weapons in the Middle East, for example. The missile defense systems have been depleted quite a bit. And so I think right now is a higher risk situation than we were, let's say, last year or a couple years ago, because of our supplies of these weapons that would be used in preventing China from invading Taiwan are pretty low. So my point is that that's the military side. But on the, let's say on the political side, the US Congress could also do something. For example, during the Eisenhower administration, the Congress, before the Mutual Defense Treaty was signed, authorized President Eisenhower the use of force in case China invaded Taiwan. So I think that that's something that should be discussed to send a message to China that the United States is serious about defending Taiwan in case China wants to change the current situation, the status quo. And that's what the Taiwan Relations Act says, is that the United States promotes the status quo, which means China should not take Taiwan. And in the 50s, Chiang Kai-shek wanted to take China. So it was the idea was that both sides should stay on their side of the Taiwan Strait. So that's what I think should happen. There should be a multidimensional approach to this to counter China's multidimensional approach to trying to subdue Taiwan.
There's a lot of people asking questions about, why is this important to us? There isn't a lot of appetite for, adventurism, even this war in Iran, a lot of questions about its validity. There's always this mass information warfare that's happening. Everyone's declaring victory, everyone's declaring failure, etc. In the context of Taiwan, well, maybe unpack that for me.
Okay. Polling in the United States says roughly 50 to 60% of the people support the idea that the United States would defend Taiwan. Boots on the ground, it goes lower than 50%, but just in general, the idea of supporting Taiwan against China, there is support. And if it goes below 50%, that's what presidents are for, is to move the public to in a positive way to support an initiative that they want to do. So I think the support is there. In Congress, it's certainly there. There's a lot of support for Taiwan in Congress. There are several reasons why Taiwan's important to the United States. As I mentioned before, if Taiwan were taken by China, our allies that we have actually treaties with, defense treaties, South Korea and Japan would be at great risk of being suffocated by Chinese obstructionism, slowing down shipping in the Taiwan Strait, affecting oil deliveries, all these different things that Japan and Korea certainly need. Even though they have nuclear power, it doesn't mean that they also need their industry to operate. So the loss of Taiwan would cause a huge economic problem for Japan and Korea, and those are countries that we have a lot of economic relationships with. So that would affect our economy. Taiwan, I think, is the fourth largest economic
Trading partner. Yeah.
So the loss of Taiwan would also be significant. So the economic side is clear. The political and diplomatic side, Taiwan's a democracy. Now, we don't have to defend every democracy in the world, but this democracy is also very special in the fact that we used to have a mutual defense treaty with this country, and we helped this country develop. So we have sort of a latent connection with this country. I mean, favorite sport in Taiwan is baseball. The electricity is 110 volts. You know, there's a lot of standardization similarities between Taiwan and the United States. If you come here on the 31st of October, a lot of kids are wearing Halloween costumes, and it's not a normal Asian tradition to celebrate Halloween. So there is that connection. There is also, I think, a important factor you mentioned is the chips. There was a study done, actually, it's a very interesting study, that came out and said that if Taiwan's chip manufacturing company, TSMC, let's say, were blown up, most people think it would affect everybody. But according to this analysis, China actually has a large chip manufacturing capability, not at the 2 nanometer level, but it has the capacity to make a lot of its own chips. And so the theory is that actually the TSMC removal would affect the West more than it would affect China. Mm-hmm. And so taking Taiwan and let's say something happened to those chip plants would actually affect the West more than would affect China. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of different things about it. And then I also mentioned from the point of view of sort of our historical connection to Taiwan, most people forget that the Republic of China, which is Taiwan, was one of the members of the founding members of the UN and also of the UN Security Council. ROC was in the Security Council, was a permanent member until 1971. It's an interesting history that people can forget and connect different things about it. And I think there's a lot of also personal connections with Taiwan. We have a huge Taiwanese expat community in the United States. People don't know about that as much. I think that Taiwan has a good reputation, but Taiwan also needs to do more internally.
So, given everything we've just talked about, what do you think should be done right now on the side of the U.S., on the side of Taiwan?
Taiwan needs to do a lot more in a lot of different areas. Let's just talk about the military. Taiwan's military is about 188,000 active duty volunteers. And every year, there's about 100,000, 107,000 18-year-olds are eligible for conscription. The problem is a lot of them use the law of going to college to avoid their conscription until after college. So for example, last year out of the 107,000 available, only 9,000 were conscripted. Everyone else went to college. So I recommend changing that law, making it 18-year-olds, everybody goes in, same time. Now you have 100,000 conscripts available for war. That sends a deterrent message to China that Taiwan is more serious and they're going to make it more problematic for China to succeed. Second thing is I recommend that the females in Taiwan also do a 1 year of service, but they don't have to do it in the military. They can do it in alternative areas such as hospitals, clinics, or other alternative methods of serving their country for a year. Same thing, 18-year-olds, everybody goes in. Third thing is there's 2 million eligible males to be in the reserves, but Taiwan only classifies 700,000 of them as being available. And of those 700,000, they only train about 120,000 a year for either 1 week or 2 weeks. That's insufficient. So I would amp up the numbers of trained reservists, not only numbers, but also time. In the United States, we have around 38 days a year that reservists do their duty. Other countries like Israel have much more than that. So that's at the sort of the military level. I think that Taiwan's laws need to be changed. The Legislative Yuan took away the military law that the United States, for example, the United States has military law applying to our service members. In Taiwan, they took it away from the military because the military was abusing its power. But the problem is if you're a spy in the military, it goes to civilian court. It doesn't go to military court. It should go to military court, and it should be prosecuted in that way. So there's lots of laws that Taiwan should change. But unfortunately, right now, the Legislative Yuan is controlled by the opposition. So these laws aren't going to be changed, but they need to be changed to make espionage more less likely. And you can go over a lot of other things in the economy that they need to readjust. For example, the training areas that they used to have for the military, they were sold off. They need to build up their capabilities. This sends a message that Taiwan is serious. And if Taiwan is serious about its own defense, more serious, then other countries will be more willing to help them. But if Taiwan is not going to push itself to show that it's willing to defend itself as a society, not just the military, but the society needs to be totally engaged.